Welcome to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast with your host, Jim Quinn of OSGA.com and J.R. O'Donnell of Red Zone Sports. Let's get started.
Hello, folks, and welcome to episode number 3 of Cast Your Bets. My name is Jim Quinn from OSGA. Happy to be here for another week with my good friend J.R. O'Donnell from Red Zone Sports. J.R., how's it going today?
I'm doing great, my friend. Like I said, best time of year, coming off a nice solid weekend, looking to roll with the winners again this weekend. And how about let's hang up a couple more for the listeners.
Well, that's fantastic, man, because you really knocked them dead last week. I myself cashed a few tickets on your plays. I hope the listeners did. And, you had to be happy with the way things have been turning out on the show. 4-0 so far, man. Really sweet.
Yeah, I think if you look at last week, the Air Force, like you said, was a nice dog. They went into a Michigan Wolverine Stadium. Michigan, obviously, big blue. Everybody had the defense lined open up at 27. Worried me a little bit when it went down to 24 and a half. But Air Force hung tough. They were just there at the end like everybody thought they would be, including myself. They covered the spread easily, and now Air Force is a nice team. The public's going to line up on them. And let's jump to the flip side. I told you the Philadelphia Eagles was a public play. In the beginning, the line was 5.5 or 6 for Kansas City, and the money came pouring into those Eagles at the last minute. Line dropped to 4.5. I was really happy with the result. I thought Kansas City played the best game of the season so far for those guys, and Philadelphia was not the right side.
No, man, and I actually took the advice of the show there, and I held out, and I got 4.5 on that one. It was really nice to get 4.5 there because it made me feel a little bit better about, risking a few dollars there.
Absolutely. What we talked about earlier with the public and the sharps, I thought basically Kansas City was an early play, and then people just started to get the momentum. The waves of money came in on the Philadelphia Eagles. They were reading the press clippings, the newsletters. Everybody and their brother lined up on Philadelphia. Obviously, when the public's on one side, you want to jump far away, and we were fortunate enough to have the Kansas City Chiefs minus the points.
Boom, went the cash register for me. I loved it, man. I figured this week you've got a couple of more winners. I mean, to think that you can go 6-0 on the show would be unbelievable. But I'm ready, man. Who you got for us this week in NCAA football?
Well, as you know, 4-0 is a tremendous mark, but, I do my homework. I told you what time I got up this morning handicapping. Nobody works harder than myself, and I can tout my own horn here. But let's talk a little bit about the college football this week. San Diego State currently is a 3.5-point favorite at the Air Force. They opened up as a 6-point favorite, and the money is coming in on Air Force off that showing last week. They're a feisty team. They're well coached. They got a nice quarterback in Wortman, and he's a playmaker. Everybody saw what happened with Michigan last week. They hung tough, 6-6 in the third quarter, 9-6. Now, Michigan pulled away a little bit late. But let me tell you about Rocky Long and the San Diego State team. Rocky Long has a recipe to deal with the Falcons' option. They have a triple option offense. San Diego State's defense is rock solid. When Rocky Long was New Mexico head coach and the San Diego State coordinator, he won all 5. That's right. 5 straight up and against the spread versus Air Force. He is not scared of the triple option. When he took over, basically in 2011, the option did not falter him one bit. Aztecs are running the ball well. Donald Pumphrey, who's in the NFL, obviously, is gone. But they got a senior named Penny. The kid's got 588 yards so far. He can run the ball. San Diego State can play defense. They're well coached. They don't turn the ball over. Their quarterback is a playmaker, and he doesn't throw interceptions. And I think the 3.5 is not the right side there. I think the 3.5 is going to be even lower. I think the public bets this down to 2.5. I wouldn't be surprised if Air Force money comes in late. I'm going to play San Diego State minus the points. Air Force, the sexy public side. San Diego State, the sharp side. Let's lay the points. 3.5 today. Going to be lower by game time. I like the Aztecs.
That's an interesting angle because Air Force did do a nice job last week keeping in there against a really good Michigan team. And I think you're probably right. I think we probably do end up seeing some Air Force money coming in there. And this is two teams that run the football a lot. I think it's one of these games where they're just going back and forth, not probably scoring a ton of points. And I wasn't aware that they had Air Force's number with that triple option. So I like to play a lot, man, and that was you're taking San Diego State and a couple of points, figuring that you're going to end up coming down a little bit on that one.
Absolutely. San Diego State, not a sexy team. San Diego State doesn't get the flash and glitter out west there, but they do one thing well. They're a disciplined team. They run the ball well. They play defense, and their coach is well coached. Their team is a well-coached team. And let me tell you about San Diego State. They don't turn the ball over, and they are not afraid of Air Force and the triple option. They got the recipe for success. The triple option will be nullified, and Air Force will not be the right side. I think San Diego State wins the game and wins the game by 7 points at least.
There you go, man. 7 points. I'm liking that a lot. I really like that. Well, that's the first of two picks that JR is going to bring for us here on today's podcast. But we're going to be right back after this message from our sponsors.
The offshore betting industry is totally unregulated.
Where can you turn to make sure your money is safe offshore?
The Offshore Gaming Association, OSGA. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free 7 days a week at 877-OSGA-BET. That's 877-674-2238. Established in 1998, the OSGA has been the ultimate watchdog for the unregulated offshore betting industry. They have helped thousands of players find secure, reputable offshore wagering outlets and perform dispute resolution for hundreds of wronged players. Visit the Offshore Gaming Association at www.osga.com or call them toll-free at 877-OSGA-BET.
And we're back here with Cast Your Bets. Jim from OSGA, JR from Red Zone Sports. JR, how'd it go over pregame last week? I figure you probably put a ton of plays out. I know you're over there at pregame.com. How'd you make out with the card you had out for your customers there?
Did pretty well at pregame, not as well as I should be. I tell the truth when it comes to long-term and transparency. Really hung up the winners the week before. Got stung a little bit on Sunday night, got stung a little bit on Monday night, but let me tell you, I'm coming back strong. I do my research. College was great, NFL choppy, but let's see if we can hang it up this week, and nobody does more work than myself. I'm studying right now, my friend.
Yeah, you're like a mad scientist, aren't you?
Let me tell you, I am the mad scientist. I've been called a lot of things out there in the handicapping world, but, I've been doing this 22 years, which doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anybody else. But to be in this business and to be out there, in the limelight and also, be accountable for my plays, you got to do the work. And like I said, during the football season, I do a lot of work, do a lot of research. I try to get the edges. It's betting the numbers. And if you play a small amount of plays that have those nice edges, that's how you make money in this business.
Absolutely, man. I think the key is to not play too many games. That kills a lot of bettors, especially a lot of novice bettors or a lot of guys who just want action. It's a shame to see a guy putting down bets on 11 NFL games on a Sunday. It's insane. Yeah. He's got a very, very small chance of winning, unless he's doing one 11-team parlay for $10, shooting for 12,000. That seems to be okay.
Yeah.
We got NFL football on Sunday. We're in week 3 now. One of the things that I've been noticing with the NFL is, a lot of guys have been getting injured. And we've seen, guys like Odell Beckham go down. This week, the big player that's down is Greg Olsen, the tight end for the Carolina Panthers. And do you think that these big superstars going down? I mean, in my mind, that's got to affect the line some. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes a lot of people like to overreact a little bit to the big guys going down. And I think the Sharps, and I've been doing this a long time, I think the Sharps consider, obviously, when the big guys go down. But, Vegas and the offshore books, they account for that right away. I think the public, more of an overlay or an overplay when the guys get injured. The big guys, Odell Beckham, Olsen this week. A lot of times these guys overreact. I think the sharp player are the people that keep their feet grounded. And I think basically they know when the books allow for that. I think obviously it's going to take a little bit of a hit, but it all is going to even out if you bide your time, you do your research, and you let the line fall to where you can play it like it's a numbers game, I think still you got some quality there. And it's an overreaction in the beginning, but it all comes down to the medium. The water seeks its own level when it comes to those players.
Yeah, and I guess it works conversely when that player comes back and is 100%. I'm figuring that the public goes, oh, Odell's playing this week. Ooh, good. And the lines maker adjusts for that too. So you're probably ending up paying a little bit of an inflated price on a team, especially if they're a favorite there, when a player like that comes back.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The line is over-adjusted. The public sees the player coming back. They see how the team has struggled. They see how they have not covered. They see that obviously the number was not in their favor. When the public sees the player comes back, they make a statement that they can't lose this week. This is the ticket. This is the straw that stirs the drink, and that's an overreaction. 9 times out of 10, 5 times out of 10, it does not work. You got to be sharp with that. I would let it play out and actually play on that team the following week when everything settles down to make some money in that situation.
Oh, I like that, man. That's a nice angle. That's a good thing to think about there for players out there. The one thing I've been looking at, because we're here in NFC East country, is the New York Giants. I don't think they can't win without a healthy Odell Beckham. I just can't. The team just seems like. I think I read the other day that they've gone like 8 games scoring less than a couple of touchdowns. It seems insane that a team that has obviously a high caliber quarterback and a bunch of weapons on the outside can't seem to score any points.
You're absolutely right. The Giants are confusing to me because, if you look at the Giants, they have one of the best receiving corps in the league. They had Beckham. They had Brandon Marshall. They got Sterling Shepard. They got Evan Ingram. They got a guy named Roger Lewis as a young receiver. I did a lot of research on that. And, with Beckham going out, the other team, nobody wants to step up to the plate. Now, everybody knows about Eli Manning and Ben McAdoo's offense. And Manning is a superstar, quiet superstar. But, I think a lot of people had that overreaction. But, I'm just disappointed in the Brandon Marshall, Shepards, and Ingrams because they had a tough core. They all went flat when Beckham went out. They scored 10 points in the football game. They scored 3 against the Dallas Cowboys. They are really in a funk, and I'm anxious to see, and I'm actually going to stay far away from that New York Giants team until they get it under control.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I mean, it seems it's one of those you mentioned earlier, the guy that stirs the drink. Obviously it's Odell Beckham for that team, but you gotta say, well, he played a little bit last week, but he certainly wasn't 100%. So, I think there's certainly a team to either play against or just flat out avoid for maybe a couple more weeks.
Absolutely, and if I can throw another point in here with my research with the Giants, people had the defense of the Giants up there to almost overcompensate for that. The reason the Giants made the playoffs last year was not because of the offense. It was because of the defense. The reason the Giants have returning hopes this year is because of the defense, and I think they let them down a little bit. Now, obviously, they only gave up 19 to the Cowboys and 24 on Monday Night Football, but the Giants' defense also has some holes, and I'm very surprised at that too. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. No Odell Beckham on offense, which puts them in a funk, and the defense not rising to the occasion, and I'm very surprised at that.
Yeah, and we're looking at making some NFL picks this week. Obviously, we're not going to be looking at the Giants, but I'm sure you've got another winner in your back pocket there, JR. Try and sift through the sheets on the desk. Try and look at the stuff that's painted on the glass mirror. See if you can come up with another winner for the listeners here.
Well, the listeners aren't going to be too fond of this one. The listeners are going to probably leave this one alone. They're going to say, you know what, JR, we don't follow you here. But let me tell you, the ugly play of the week, the play that's going to get no attention, is let's look at a team. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the public team. We talked about early. Public, P-U-B-L-I-C. Pittsburgh is a public team. They're laying 7.5. They have everything going on. They got Roethlisberger. They got Bell. They got the wide receiver. And Pittsburgh's going to go into Chicago, who got trashed by a Tampa Bay Bucks team 29-7. They are a terrible team. Everybody worries about the Cubs. Everybody worries about the Blackhawks. And there's going to be nobody in Chicagoland this week that are worried about the football. Well, you know what? The uglier the better, my friend, is I think Chicago does one thing well. John Fox, who's on the hot seat, 5-1-1 the last 7 as a home dog role. I think the Bears are in a nice spot. I think the Bears are an ugly team, and I can't emphasize that enough. Now, they did a lot of things wrong last week, but these guys are all professionals. They're all ready to play. Pittsburgh is going to come in there fat and happy. They had a nice game last week. They got all the weapons. They're laying 7.5. The people are going to play Pittsburgh two-fisted, and JR is going to line up on the other side. That's right. Chicago Bears plus the 7.5. Yeah, I know who's quarterbacking. Glennon taking over for Case Keenum. I realize what's going on with the quarterbacks. I also realize what's going on with the running game and the injuries. But this is the NFL, boys, and I've seen this movie before. Chicago Bears plus the 7.5. Play the Bears. They are an ugly team. They get the job done. I'm playing Chicago plus the points.
That is a fugly one, man. That is really something else. You're 100% right, though. The number's going to come out inflated on Pittsburgh every single week. Getting that at least a touchdown. Bears at home. Bears are always tough at home. I kind of like that play a lot. I think you've got something there. I mean, if the Bears D can show up, I'm not really overwhelmed with what I've seen from the Pittsburgh offense this year. They've got more weapons than anybody in the league, and I know they've played well, but I just haven't seen that, ability to just blow a team out. And I think if the Bears defense shows up, you got a nice fat dog there, home dog.
Absolutely, they do one thing well, and I can't emphasize it enough. If you take anything away from this play, let me tell you, John Fox gets them up, and they play one thing well. They save their best effort in the NFL for playing at home. They're a home dog. Plus 7.5. Now, Chicago on the road, Chicago against a lesser team. But I think this is the National Football League. These guys are all stars. John Fox is on the hot seat. Pittsburgh is an inflated number. I wouldn't be surprised if this line goes to 8 or 8.5. I do not think it dropping. I will not play this below a touchdown. I would play Chicago to 7.5. I wouldn't play it at 6.5. But I think Pittsburgh, the money's going to come in on the Steelers. I think 8 might be the number. There's no way I'm touching the Steelers on the road laying 8. No way, no how.
Yeah, and the thing about the coach there, the Bears in the first week of the season, they played the Falcons tough, and the Falcons have looked really good. So that's a nice dog there. JRO taking the Bears at least 7 points. If you can get 7.5 right now, you could probably get 8, maybe even a little more than 8 when the game time comes. 2 fat winners from JRO, San Diego State, giving some points to Air Force, and the Chicago Bears taking some points at home, and another fat winner from JRO. JR, it's time for the weekly sportsbook rant. We have our chat lines, we have our phone lines, we have our email. People contact us in droves every single week, asking us questions about sportsbooks, where to play, things like that. And we had a couple of guys on chat this week that brought up these brand new places. They brought up places that literally I'd never heard of. Now, keep in mind, you know me a long time. I've been doing this 19 years. If I haven't heard of a place, it's probably not the place you want to play at just out of the gate, right? And he says to me, well, the guy told me his name, Travis, whatever it was. And I said, his name's not Travis. His name's probably Hector. Like, there's just no way that's the guy's real name. Do you know him? No, of course I don't know him. He's just some guy playing at some place with a list, and he managed to find you. And the big thing that I really need to say to players out there is, it's worth every penny of taking a little less bonus. It's worth every penny of maybe having to pay for a payout. It's worth every penny of doing a little bit of research, maybe becoming an OSGA member, to go and play at a place that's established, that's been around a long time, that has a huge clientele that's never going to go out of business. I mean, every horror story that we hear, every 9 out of 10 complaints are all on with places that have, less than 500 customers. And really, do you want to play with a place that has 50,000? JR, would you want to play with a place that has 50,000 customers or a place that has 500 customers?
Listen, you're preaching to the choir here. You've been doing this 19 years. I've been doing it 22 years. I hear lots of horror stories. I hear people that certainly didn't take the advice, which they should have from you. They go out on their own. They get the tremendous bonuses. They get the tremendous rollovers. And then they don't get paid, and they complain to me. If they would have listened to you in the first place, and like you said, take a lesser bonus, maybe pay for a little payout. It's hard enough to beat the guy, but when you beat the guy and you don't get paid, that is just terrible, my friend, just pathetic.
Yeah, horror story, man. And that was our original slogan, JR, back in 1998 when we started all this. What good is winning if you don't get paid? You know, and that's
Right.
really the bottom line, getting paid at the end. Hopefully, with your two winners, you, me, the listeners, will all be getting paid this weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed this week's podcast. We'll be back next week. JR will bring us a couple of more winners. I'll have a little more insight. We'll talk a little more football. Thanks again for listening to Cast Your Bets. Look for me at osga.com. JRO, people will look for you over at Pregame, right? Pregame.com.
Absolutely. Pregame.com.
Fantastic, man. I hope you have a great weekend, JR, and good luck to everybody out there. Thanks for listening to Cast Your Bets.
You've been listening to Cast Your Bets, the Offshore Gaming Association podcast. Check in each week for more inside the sports gaming world, and don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel at OSGA Sports Betting. Thanks for listening.